Hey everyone, we got some unexpected activity on Friday, which we usually get for OPEX, especially quarterly OPEX. But this time it came earlier, basically end of May print on the 30th. I checked last year and it didn't happen, so it's quite unusual to get this type of activity out of the OPEX cycle, and it probably means something. We just have to figure out what. I'll just scroll through this. This is just top 10 prints sorted by dollar value. And I'll just scroll to get for you guys to get an idea. You can pause the video to look at any specific name, or you can ask in the comments on Blue Sky if you want more details in a specific name. Uh, but yeah, we got a lot of activity. Biggest names by far were Microsoft and Nvidia, with Microsoft with 7 billion number 6 print, and Nvidia with 5.72 billion and a number 10 print. A lot of number ones as well, like Netflix, what APH, ABT, like a lot of names got number one prints or very high prints. And I marked a few down, just a few for the as examples, and some things that look toppy, some things that look bottomy. We shall see. First of all, like I marked the previous quarterly large prints. So, for example, from Microsoft, we got 7.63 billion on March. Oh, sorry, in December. Then this was March. And this type of activity is actually, I'll show Apple because that one had a very nice setup. So, for example, this is Apple on the December print, and we never went back above it, or Tesla. Sometimes we have some activity that like we have some overshot, but then it became resistance once we went below it, and after a while it just collapsed. And this is true basically for Microsoft as well. We had this sprint, went below, went above, but eventually went down. And like I said, it's quite unusual to get this at end of May. I'm really curious if we will get more of this type of large activity for June OPEX, considering that it already happened now at the end of May. Um, so, like I showed, Microsoft got 7.16 billions, a very, very large print. I think this is a topping area, like I would expect some movement around it potentially until OPEX, but eventually we will go likely down from this. For Nvidia, this was the December print, went above a couple of times or consolidated around it, eventually broke down when we had the drop. This is the March one, and now the May one is basically at the same level as the December one, and we're still struggling to get above it. By the way, Nvidia has been going sideways, basically the whole, not the whole market, but the whole mega cap, the Max 7 has been going sideways since basically a year now. So this is May 24th. We had a spike from the previous, from that Q1 earnings, and ever since then we've been going sideways. And I see no reason for this to change, honestly. Nvidia's earnings increase, not that they're stagnating, but they're coming back to normal levels. Like for example, we have 44 and 45 expected next. So earnings increase has not been will not be going at this pace forever. And let's say when this whole run started, they were at 6 billion, and next quarter they're going to be at 45 billion, like 7 and a bit x earnings increase. But the stock has went up 14 times as of the close on Friday, more than 14 times. We went from 11 or around 14 times. So this is to be expected, and I don't see us breaking out above anytime soon, not below either, but this range is expected to remain for the foreseeable future, at least from my perspective. Now, let's go to the toppy stuff. We have Netflix. I've been camping this one for a long time. It just keeps going and going and going, but I think it's on its last legs. I think we can go a bit higher, like 1350 maybe at max, but I think this is very close to a top, and it should finally correct a decent amount, not just like these feeble ones we got here. This was a warning shot, by the way, but like 20%, but it still kept the uptrend. And what I'm looking to see is a correction that breaks the uptrend. Like instead of going keeping the trend line, let's say like this, I I want to see one where we break down. This doesn't mean it won't go back up. Like let's imagine something like this. We break the uptrend, maybe go here, and then we go back to the highs. But this is a much larger correction than we saw here. How big would it be? Like 30%. So I'm looking to see something like this. Netflix should be going into its own range, like all the other names from the Max 7 list. Uh, Sooner rather than later. So I think this is a number one print, not imminently bearish, but I would expect this to be around a top area around for Netflix to do something like this, eventually go down, break the uptrend as well, and then recover because this is how it works. Then we have Spotify, the which again on the camp list for a long time, but it keeps relentlessly going up. What is to note for Netflix is this very weak RSI into new all-time highs. This is a negative sign. It has happened before, but it it kept being bullish, like here as well. But again, this is late cycle. We had a warning shot here. The next one should be the one that breaks the uptrend and takes us below this line. And this reminds me of the CLF chart from 2020 something like this. Again, it kept making highs into weaker and weaker RSI. Eventually, it broke down, and the end of the breakdown is basically when RSI gets into oversold. So I expect the same thing for Spotify, and I'll go back to Spotify again. This is the unusual part here, which was the war, but it was a deviation, and actually it wanted to go much lower, and it did over time. Now going back to Spotify, same type of behavior here, like weak RSI, but and eventually it corrects. We don't know how low price will go, but when RSI gets into this area, then you know it's time to go back long on it. And same like here, weak RSI, it corrected, or here it corrected, and then it went higher. So I would expect this time to be a bit more potent. Like I said, similar to Netflix, I think this will be very toppy around this area. Eventually does at least this and maybe something like this. Minimum target would be this 480 area. We shall see. But 480 is the baseline for when this type of thing breaks down. Then we have GE, another relentless mover. Same type of behavior here, like weaker and weaker RSI. It corrected, but in price, not that much, more like in RSI. And then it didn't leg up. But it's one thing to do this at the beginning of a run. It's another thing to do it at the end of the run. Now, it's not the same as Spotify, but still a very overextended run. Uh, like it went up how much? 157 since the 54% since April lows. So yeah, this was only a number 6 print, but still of note. APH, this one I posted on Blue Sky with Spotify and Wood APH. Anyway, very overextended as well. This is probably like a trend line that it will get back below under. Maybe do something like this and eventually break down and go back to like this 70 area. MA, uh, again, the same kind of chart, very toppy. I don't see this continuing. CME, top of a channel. This was a number one print, I think. PM on the list for a long time. but it kept going, keeps going and going and going. Now we have a short-term divergence as well, and a very steep looking. Oops, why am I clicking this? Very steep looking rising wedge. I expect this to correct imminently. This is very imminent looking for PM. Hood number one print into potential double top. A very big recovery uh, since the April lows. I think this doubled. Yeah, more than doubled. So looking to see a bit of distribution. So unless I specify that something is imminent, assume that we will go more like sideways before an eventual collapse a bit later. So this is kind of how I see things moving. Not It's not imminent for anything unless I specify it looks imminent. Uh, GEV, this looks more imminent, but not in a catastrophic way, more something like this. Monster, Melly, I think this was the number one print as well. Monster was number two, Melly is number one, GV is number four. And finally, on the toppy list, we have Roblox, also with an incredible run since the lows. Uh, doesn't look that good to me. Imminent correction, but again, not catastrophic, same as a few of the other names. More like something like this. It could go higher later, but short term, we should see a pullback rather than a continuation. Now, for the signs of life, which are potentially bullish names, we have COP, which is just aggregate of oil names, let's say. This was oil names at the March print, and we had an almost immediate collapse afterwards. Now we have, this was what print? COP, number 7 print. They didn't get very high prints like ones and twos or something like this, but there were generally what I consider to be potentially bullish activity for all oil names. And in this low area, after a bit of consolidation and failing to make new lows, this looks rather constructive. Like look at even XOM. This got a print as well, but like 2030. But still, we are at near the bottom of the range in a potentially higher low. So I I could see this having the ability to go higher. And this was March 20th. This was the top print there, and it overshot, but eventually went below it and just dumped horribly, like all the other oil names. So yeah, this is potentially a bottom area for oil names. COP looks very good. Then we have TMUS. This looks constructive. I like the RSI structure. It looks more like a rounding bottom in RSI like this, and it's preparing to go up. We are at the apex of a pennant, so any type of move, whether it's down or up, and I suspect it's going to be up, but if it goes down, it's also significant because it will break the uptrend. Uh, and by the way, many of the names I mentioned previously, like the bullish ones, have the same kind of look. Like imagine we have something like Roblox, but instead of TMUS, we are here on Roblox. So this is the type of top I would expect to see in most of them, uh, except PM. PM looks kind of already ready to drop more. But look at these names or something like GV or Monster, actually Melly. So these have the same look as TMUS had here. See what I mean? So a bit of sideways in a horizontal range, eventually break down, almost filling the gap here at the bottom, and now it's looking bullish again. This is kind of how I would expect the others to play out as well. Obviously, not all of them are going to, some are going to drop less, some are going to drop more, but eventually they will do this type of structure. And now this one is looking bullish again after consolidation, after retesting the trend line. But if it breaks the uptrend, which is possible it will do, I expect it to have another major leg down, so it won't be small. Minimum would be 209, probably like 200, because it's also a psychological level. So this would be significant. Another 15% down is significant in my opinion. So if it breaks the downtrend, uh, the trend line, the uptrend trend line, I expect to have another major leg down. But mm, I think 70% this will resolve bullishly because of the RSI correction and the build up. So I would expect this to go back to the highs, and we kind of have a horizontal range developing, which is between 271 and 241. So for the foreseeable future, it should go sideways. FI, this looks pretty good. It was a number one print on FI. Major falling wedge. Again, number one print on a green candle. Smallish ones into a support area. I would expect this. RSI is looking kind of good. Again, kind of has that rounding bottom look, and it will start going up relatively soon. This was pretty good. Then we have MSI. Same kind of look, meaning a pennant. We can measure it from from here or the bottom here. It looks kind of good to me. I think it resolves to the upside, goes back to like 479-ish, something like this. That would be the target. If it breaks down, I think it will just be a low retest. So we'll have to look at it again. If it gets like below 400, like 390, 400, still likely a more bullish look. The difference between it and something like FI or T-Mobile US, it doesn't have this nice RSI correction. So even though it went down, it hasn't really corrected enough in RSI to definitely say it's going to be bullish. But even if it breaks down, I think the 390, 400 area is going to be support, and then it's probably going to have that look. It's going to look like this, something like this, and it's going to be more like this. Then we have PEG. What print was this? PEG number one print as well. And on a breakdown, also looks like T-Mobile US or MSI. This one just moved faster. It took. This is why my bias is bullish for MSI as well. They look kind of similar. You see this? It goes up. Kind of end of story. Then we have KMX, CarMax, had the number one print as well in a support area in the bottom of the range. So more likely than not that this will go with on a green candle. More likely that this will go higher and break the downtrend. I took some liberties with this trend line, but these are overshoots. Immediate correction afterwards. Immediate correction afterwards. So it tried to go up, but it failed. Uh, I I stand by this trend line, and I would expect it to break out relatively soon. Then we have Albemarle, which I think is bottoming. I posted this one with some bullish activity in options last week, and I like the comparison to this area here. I still think it has some room to go lower. Like the minimum I think it sees is like this 45, 46 area. I don't think it will do that, but it's possible that it does that. So the kind of the worst case scenario would be this, and let's compare to Tesla in that the print we saw in March went above, went below, and when it finally decided to go up, it went up. I kind of think Albemarle will do the same here. Like it can go down, but it will recover. It will go down, it will recover, and eventually, once it does this one, two, three times maybe, and it goes up, it will go up significantly. For now, 80 is a target. It's the trend line. It's probably the top area here. We'll see when it does, but I think it's starting to look pretty bullish. What ALB number 4 print. So 265 million number 4 print. And finally, we have Shopify. This one is a bit strange because it had, for more May OPEX, it had a lot of activity. That was dark pool, so it won't appear in the volume. No, some of it appears in the volume. So it had this on the Friday of May OPEX, when is the expected time to get a lot of activity, not end of May. This got number 1 print plus a lot of other prints as well, like 7 billion ish. And now we have a number 6 print on the close on Friday. I thought this was a top, and on the short term it was, but it's not significant enough to dismiss this as bullish accumulation. Like if I switch this to, let's say, year to date, this looks, this begins to look a bit like accumulation. Like it's at horizontal support, and it's normal for it to pause here in this area. Sorry, horizontal resistance. So we are in a previous breakdown area. Let's say something like this. Like this 110, 115 area is where you would expect it to stall into horizontal resistance. But it's not getting rejected catastrophically. And let's say probably this. So 83. It's not getting rejected so that it goes to 83. Again, it's too early to call, but meaning it can go either way. But I'm starting to believe this is going to be a bullish pennant, and it's actually accumulation for a breakout. So be on the lookout for if this breaks out, because if it does, after number 1 print here, number 6 print here, so basically like one, not 7 billion. This was 7 billion, and this was what? 277 million, but that's small. But basically, after like 7 to 8 billion of accumulation in this area, if this thing breaks out, it will go quite a long way. So maybe put an alert in this area if it breaks out, because it could probably like double this for 70 to, let's see. Now let's do this, only this. So target would be like 145, 150. Quite a bit of upside here, like 40 to 50% upside from this 110 level. And that's just a conservative estimate. Like this could potentially go significantly higher. But again, it can also be down. And if it breaks down, then our target is the 80 area, like 80, 80, 85 area, which is likely to become a horizontal range, something like this. Then goes back here. Eventually, maybe it it breaks out. But if we go back to 80, then I would expect to see some accumulation activity, like something the way we saw here, a lot of activity. I would expect to see something like here in this 70 to 80 area actually. And we have large prints that became support in this area. So yeah, this is kind of the setup. Um, it mostly means a sideways market. Uh, could see some correction here and there, but not catastrophic correction. So if we go down, I expect the market to respect its levels and basically go to this 560, 65 area, hold, and then bounce. That's kind of the baseline. I'll talk about that a bit more in the market video. For now, have a good one. Bye bye.